Yeah!
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to a special edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. It is Saturday, September. Why do I always default to September? Why? I don't understand. I don't understand how my brain works. Why do I default to September when I suddenly get confused in my months? I think this might be the onset of maybe not Alzheimer's, but well, maybe. Weird. It is January 9th, 2021, and this morning I will be talking about Wrestle Kingdom 15, which I was able to watch, and enjoy live, but wasn't quite as capable of getting around to doing some post shows and so on and so forth. That's fine, because I'm here now. To recap the whole thing, I'm very, very excited. I'm really, really excited to be able to talk about Wrestle Kingdom, which I thought was overall a consistent show. I think match quality, good to great, excellent even. I think there's some there was some absolute must-see matches on both nights, but I think it's been one of the least dramatic Wrestle Kingdoms, at least in terms of the build-up and the storylines. But I'll get into it. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm excited. I'm pumped to talk about it. I want to thank you for joining me either here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Everything I do. Look, I don't want to say everything I do. I want to say 95% of what I do is recorded live here on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And some exceptions to the side. Or if you're listening on your own accord later on video on demand, YouTube, or maybe you're listening on your favorite podcast application. And thank you if you are. I really appreciate knowing that there are people out there who really do like the video aspect of it. I thank you. Thank you so much. Just thank you for being here. I'm excited to talk some Wrestle Kingdom. And and let's just do it. But hey, if you do feel like it, if you do feel inclined this morning, you can drop me a super chat and I will read your question or comment live on the air as things are happening right here, right now. And we do already have some super chats popping in, such as from Anakin JMT, who is here. How you doing, Anakin? Left us 2 super chats to begin with. First and foremost, props for the shirt. Yes, I'm wearing my Lauren Moran Becky Lynch t-shirt, which was a gift to me from my pal Harmony Cox. Shout out to Harmony. Hope she's doing well. So he says, props for the shirt. Just rewatched that Raw segment this morning. The Raw, this one here. Yeah. It's a memorable one. It's career defining, era defining. It was such a fantastic moment. And also, Nia Jax sucks. Let's not mince any words. Anakin, or throwback, just before we get to Anakin's other super chat. Throwback 27, our boy Throwback is here. How you doing, Throwback? He says, greetings and salutations. What? No IVF coffee? Oh yes, I do have coffee right here in my mug with the laughing cow right here. You see that? And it's written here, La Vache qui rit in here, which means the laughing cow. That's right. I'm already almost out, but I do have water. Don't worry. But I appreciate you being here, Throwback. Happy New Year, by the way. Happy New Year to everyone in here as well. We've also got Ben Parizet, who's in here as well. Happy birthday, Ben. Ben is already up there. Aaron Entertainment is here as well. Good to see you, sir. And Sengir Vampire Tom, good to see you as well. I've had 3 coffees so far. And this is pretty much like around 11 o'clock when I'm recording right now. This is like my third coffee, and this is usually where I top off around 11. So that'll be okay. Dean Pasker is here as well. Good to see the third Dean Pasker the third. It's good to see you as well. And Anakin's other super chat that he left us goes like this. And I wanted to leave it here so that we can segue more easily into talking about New Japan. You see, I'm a pro host, professional wrestling streamer host. Anakin says, if I were to get into New Japan, what would be a good starting place? Now, formation of the Bullet Club, when the Elite left, or some other time? Well, it depends. I guess the question here is when you would like to jump on, and how much you're ready to commit to it. Because if you wanted to start, I think starting with modern, my goodness, I mean, there's so many starting points really where you could go. If you wanted to get in quickly and just dive right in and be like, okay, who are the major players? What should I be getting into? I would say start at the New Japan Cup 2020. It was pandemic era, and there was a lot of stuff that was reset. A lot of angles which were set aside that had started in January and February that were put aside, and the New Japan Cup sort of felt like, and especially with the outcome, felt like, okay, well, we have to try something new and we have to establish some new stars. We need to go back to the well on some things. So it's a good place to start if you want to dive in quickly. Then you get into the G1 and then you get to Wrestle Kingdom here. So like, if you don't want to start spending your days, weeks and weeks and weeks trying to catch up on New Japan, I think that's a good place to start. If you do want to like dive deeply into the history of what Bullet Club is and what it meant for New Japan and where we got to today, especially with the Elite and all of that, then yeah, going back to 2013 when our boy Prince Devitt was the leader and started it off with the Tongans and Bad Luck Fale, the Good Brothers, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, and Doc Gallows. I mean, that's a really good place to go. And I feel like it's a good way for Westerners to get involved in it, especially now since these are all faces that not all of them, but a lot of the Bullet Club faces are faces that we know now because of WWE, because of AEW, because of Impact, whatever. So it's a good reference point. But then you're getting into like 8 years of you have to catch up with 8 years of wrestling. Of course, you could just focus on the major shows, but that's 8 years of wrestling right there. Yeah, I think those are, because if you do that, then you get everything on. Then you'll get to see You'll also get to see Tanahashi, kind of like when he was in his prime, when he was pushing forward, and carrying New Japan on his back. You'll get to see Shibata wrestle. God, I miss Shibata sometimes. You'll get to see Okada coming up. There's a lot of what contemporary New Japan is right now that I think if you went back to 2013, you'd be able to get a good history out of it. But the one thing that I think that you can keep in mind, though, is that commentary always does a fantastic job in making sure that you understand the history of every match that you're watching. So even if you haven't seen the matches, Kevin Kelly, Chris Charlton, they'll weave the past into what you're watching. So if anything, it'll give you markers where you're like, oh, this match here is a big deal because of what happened at this particular moment in time. So if anything, you can go rewatch that, but I don't think it's possible to feel left out. And while New Japan does weigh a lot on its history to move forward, and to provide us with the sports centric storylines that they're known for, and that defines the brand at this point, the company, the promotion. It's more than just a brand. It's its own company. I think it's a good. It's hard to not be included, because commentary does the work and helps you understand what's going on. So I think it's a good place. And for sure, there's probably some fantastic YouTube videos out there that will serve as starting off points. And I mean, chat, if you guys have any suggestions for our boy Anakin as well, feel free to drop in and let him know. I also think a good place to start off, like even if it's just a few matches, like the Kenny Omega Kazuchika Okada feud, which spanned over 2 years. Those matches, just seeking out those matches in and about itself will help you tremendously just to get into the groove of things. For sure. Absolutely for sure. Yeah. So the good super chat to start off with. And Anakin left us another super chat again. Thank you very much, Anakin. He says, no M mug. No, the M mug stays in Wisconsin. That's my mug from when I'm over there. And we don't call it the M mug. It's the upside down W mug. All right. Wrestle Kingdom. All right. So like I said at the start of the show, let's get into it. Let's start talking about it. Wrestle Kingdom 15. I don't think was as dramatic or compelling as far as a build goes, as opposed to many other years that we've had. Even compared to last year, and I think the fault of it. I think the reason why maybe it wasn't as exciting, or like the main events didn't feel compelling, and I think it's a testament to the main event scene this year. I don't think the main event scene in New Japan this year was all that compelling. I think it was kind of a weak spot for the promotion this year. Now, granted, by the way, Marty Hard, good to see you. Welcome to the chat. I think that here's the thing. I really do think that that COVID had a lot to do with this, right? And I think there's a lot of stuff that can be forgiven, and ultimately, historically, when we look back upon this period, I think we're all going to go a little bit like this and be like, hey, lemons into lemonade kind of situation. And I can appreciate that. And I think there's a compelling argument to be made in that regard without coming across as a blind defender, or as they like to say, a mark. I think there is a legitimate argument, a compelling argument to be made that, the COVID era didn't help really. I was talking about the New Japan Cup earlier this year. It was exciting when they came back, and there were some great matches within the New Japan Cup. Nakanishi Suzuki just comes to mind. But I think that it came back. When it did come back, it was to closed arenas, and it was very, very dry. It was it was a plain environment. There was no audience, and everything felt very, very asepticized, and not exactly as exciting as usual when it comes to the shows. I mean, the audience really did add something on. They tried to experiment. They did what will be referred to, I think, moving forward as the Evil experiment, putting the top titles of the company on Evil after the New Japan, because Evil won the New Japan Cup. Evil challenged then Naito before that he left LIJ, joined Bullet Club, challenged Naito, won the titles, and I don't think anyone will really consider Evil as a great champion. I don't think we're going to turn around and be like, this was a good run, you guys, to coin a phrase. It kind of wasn't. In my opinion, he had one good match out of his reign, and it was at Summer Struggle in August against Naito, when Naito won the belts back, heading into the G1. Other than that, everything was pretty dull. It was pretty boring, if you ask me. So I don't think. And I think that the lack of top tier opposition for Naito, or at least that they didn't go back to certain top tier talent, I think it hurt the whole situation. And then there was the whole thing where Ibushi wins the G1, wins the briefcase, the contract to challenge for the title at Wrestle Kingdom, but then Jay White beats Ibushi for the briefcase, but then Naito gives Ibushi his shot at Wrestle Kingdom anyway. Like, I feel like the main event situation was very, very plain, and it wasn't as exciting as it should have been. And as an LIJ fan, as a Los Ingobernables de Japón fan, Naito fan, we were all excited that Naito finally got the win last year at Wrestle Kingdom. We're excited that he finally won the straps. But I think we all sort of hoped that he'd have a better 2020 than he did. But didn't we all hope that we'd get a better 2020? Right? I think we all hoped that we'd get a better 2020 than what we got. That being said, it was a lackluster year for the tag title, for the main straps, for the champion, and I think we all sort of felt that going into Wrestle Kingdom. Not that we were saying, oh, the matches are going to stink. You can't have such elite level talent as Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, and Jay White and be like, these matches are going to stink. But it's just the build, the drama to it, the anticipation. I don't think it was there. I think it was a little lackluster. However, on the flip side, I will say this: the never openweight title, currently held by one Shingo Takagi, fantastic stuff throughout the year. It truly was the workhorse title this year, and there was no way. There was no way that the belt could not be considered prestigious after 2020. It switched hands between Minoru Suzuki and Shingo, and both of these guys worked so hard at it, elevated it, and really gave us some of the most compelling matches we got all year. So if anything, I felt like the never openweight scene was much more exciting than the main event level stuff, which is weird. But then again, not weird in the sense I don't want to seem disrespectful here, but the weird in the sense that I feel people got more excited about the never title defenses than the main event, and that's what makes it a little weird. So Wrestle Kingdom this year, and I'm trying to look for the numbers. I should have done a bit. Oh no, here we go. The attendance right here. There was a limited attendance capacity of 20,000 people on both nights. Of course, because of all the COVID restrictions that were put on the event. On December 29, New Japan ended the ticket sales due to tighter restrictions that were being imposed. So night one attendance for night one ended up being 12,689 people, whereas on night two, 7,801. So a little less than half. And if you ask, yeah, boy, I think that makes sense. And I don't know, even if they had, continued making ticket sales after December 29, I'm not sure that night two would have risen by, 5,000 more or 4,000 more tickets to sort of reach the attendance levels of night one, because night one was really as far as star power goes, it was the most stacked of the two nights. And maybe there's a lesson here that New Japan sort of has taken here. Because on night one you had Naito, Ibushi, Okada, and Tanahashi, who are, and especially when it comes to Okada, Tanahashi, Naito, huge stars. Absolutely, like those are your top baby faces in the company, all on night one. And the next night, sure, you get Kota Ibushi, and you still have guys like Takahashi who are popular. Hiromu, I'm talking about Hiromu Takahashi. I'm not talking about Yujiro Takahashi, the Tokyo Beam. Not talking about him. To me, the numbers make sense as far as attendance go, and I think it's a bit of a shame. Maybe this was a test. Maybe they wanted to see how much Ibushi on his own could draw, or Jay White at the same time. I mean, that's it. Like night one, all the big names that New Japan has been relying on for, I'd say, the past 2 years at this point, ever since the Elite left, and beyond that, they were all on night one. So I don't even think with door sales it would have made that much of a difference. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 1,000 more at the most. But I think night 2 was destined to be not as big a draw. On night 2, we did have the Stardom women who had their dark matches. We had Azumi, Saya Katamari, and Utami Haya. I haven't pronounced her name often. Utami Hayashishita, defeating Himeka, Maika, and Natsupoi, and then you had Shiri and Julia defeating Mayu and Tam Nakano. Apparently, for those who were in attendance, apparently the Stardom matches were very, very good this year. Much better than what happened last year. And last year, people were very happy with the outcome of the matches as well. They all thought they were pretty good. Excited to see. Excited to see the Stardom matches eventually get their own bubble on their own place on televised Wrestle Kingdom, as opposed to just as a dark match here. Hey, Mr. Fantastic, thank you very much for the very cool super chat. I appreciate it. Very generous. Thank you very much. He says I didn't even have to ask for a Tokyo Pimp this time. Good to see you. Hope your 2021 is off to a great start. It is. Thank you very much, Mr. Fantastic, and I hope yours is as well. Thank you for joining me this morning. I appreciate it. Let's start talking about the matches. Let's run this one down. Let's start with night 1, shall we? Started off with the 22-man Japan Rambo, which is there wasn't a Rambo on Wrestle Kingdom 14 last year. There was, there wasn't. And the Rambo is basically a battle royal. It's just as simple as that. The 22-man Rambo, and this one had stakes to it. The final 4 of the Rambo would face in a fatal 4-way the next day for the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 title, because we had to reset the title. It's a new thing. The King of Pro Wrestling title or championship is something new that New Japan introduced this year in regards to not in regards to anything. It's just something new that they added this year, and they made it was basically a championship that would be defended through stipulation matches. And the first champion this year was Yano. So all through whenever the King of Pro Wrestling championship is defended, there's a special stipulation in this year, and it's reset every year. So if you're the holder at the end of 2020, you're not necessarily going to hold it in 2021. The championship gets reset. So this was the reset one here. I mean, this was, essentially your opening night battle royal. It's a bit of a mess, but it's also fun. The main story here being that Chase Owens of the Bullet Club was entered at number 1 and ended up being in the final 4. I think that's the big story that came out of it. The final 4 being Bushi, Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale of Bullet Club, and Toru Yano, who came in as the final entrant, but won in perfectly Yano form, because Yano never made it to the ring. He never actually got into the ring to fight. There were 4 guys left in the ring as he was making his entrance, and the 4 guys eliminated. I don't remember who was eliminated last, but there was one guy who got tossed out. So there were 3 guys left in the ring. Toru Yano coming to the ring. So Toru Yano won without actually having to wrestle, which is the most Toru Yano way of winning a match. I thought that was fantastic. I kind of popped for that. I thought it was great. They were fighting young lions at the end. We're fighting young lions. Yeah, and Bushi spent most of the match outside the ring as well. It just happened. It just happened. I'll tell you this. This is another thing. Like throughout the year, we had guys like, and I mean, it's become a regular thing with New Japan fans to talk about how disrespected Tomohiro Ishii is year after year because he doesn't get a proper spot on the Wrestle Kingdom card. This is exactly what happened this year. Again, he gets put into the Rambo, and this is a guy who carries his division, his block in the G1 year after year. Tomohiro Ishii is incapable of having a bad match in New Japan. This is something I sincerely and believe. Like you'd have to get to you'd really have to be a slouch to drag Ishii down to your level. And every year he's the MVP of the G1, and then we get to Wrestle Kingdom and they don't know what to do with him. They don't give him a match. He doesn't get a high profile match. Now he's thrown into the Rambo. And you're like, what? And Sho, who had a fantastic 2020 with Yo being out of action, so Roppongi 3K not doing the tag team thing. Sho, who is destined to be a single star in this fucking company, had amazing matches with Shingo Takagi throughout 2020 for the Neverweight title, in the New Japan Cup, so on and so forth. And he doesn't even get a match either. And I'm going to talk about El Desperado later. I mean, it's weird. It's really weird. And especially when you consider some of the booking choices that they made in New Japan on Wrestle Kingdom this year. It's really weird. And to have Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale have spotlight moments, and especially fucking Chase Owens, spotlight moments during Wrestle Kingdom, while guys like Sho and Ishii are on the back burner, makes my blood boil. I don't like it. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship Title Challenge match. Hiromu Takahashi, the winner of the Best of the Super Juniors, defeated El Phantasmo, who was the winner of the Super J Cup. Why did I? I was drawing a blank. So basically, the winners of the two cruiserweight championship or light heavyweight championship tournaments faced each other on night one. The winner getting a shot at the IWGP light junior heavyweight championship the next day on night two. I loved this match, but then again, I'm a Hiromu mark, and I'm okay with that. To me, Hiromu Takahashi can't do no wrong, and we are all better off with this guy wrestling than not. Of course, comes out with his huge parka, which just looks like... if you guys saw his entrance gear, you know what I'm talking about. The huge parka that seems so comfortable and warm. It's kind of like if I were to go like to an expedition to Antarctica, but I also wanted to look good while braving the cold. That's I'd call Hiromu and be like, "Hey, dude, can I have your entrance gear at Wrestle Kingdom 15? Because that was fantastic." And this was a great match. High flying, all sorts of energy. Phantasmo. Okay, I want to talk about El Phantasmo for a second, because he came off amazingly here. When he was during the Super J Cup, and I talked about it on the mainstream, he had a fantastic he won the Super J Cup, of course, but he had a fantastic tournament. And one of the things that I noted, that I pointed out, was how good his heel work was. I thought he was an extraordinarily good heel throughout that tournament. And he was always good as a heel, but I thought he had suddenly reached a very next level type of heel work in his personality and his facial expressions and the little things. It's always the little things that differentiate a good heel from a great one. So I was looking at everything he was doing there in his character work, and I thought he was fantastic. And he brought that over to Wrestle Kingdom, but on top of that, not just bring his great character work, but he brought his A game at the same time. And I can't help but draw some comparisons to another junior heavyweight who was really, really good in New Japan as a heel and was a member of Bullet Club and rose into prominence to become the leader of Bullet Club, one gentleman named Kenny Omega. And I can't help but start to draw parallels between ELP and Omega at this point, because they're starting to have the same type of character, the career path, where they come in as a junior. They're one of the ace juniors of Bullet Club, and they start developing a really good personality. They start really working on their heel persona, and their in-ring work is pristine. It's great stuff. I'm excited to see how far ELP is going to go over the next couple of years. I think this is a guy that, a lot of people like. I don't think anyone goes, not an ELP match, god damn it. I don't think anyone does that, but I think people are sort of sleeping on him. And because he doesn't pop up all that regularly in conversations about who we like in New Japan, who do we see as the future and so on and so forth. I think he's poised to be something really fucking special. I think 2021 was the Super J Cup specifically was a breakout moment for him as far as bringing his personality, his character, his in-ring work to another level. And the match that he had with Hiromu on night one was fantastic. I thought both guys were extremely generous with each other. They both looked great. Phantasmo actually was in control for a good portion of the match, and Hiromu sort of won out of the blue, which is great. I think it's good. It's a good way to keep your opposition strong at the same time. So I thought it was a great match to start off Wrestle Kingdom 1, and ELP was doing callbacks to AJ Styles by doing he attempted and hit a Styles clash. He also did a One Wing Angel attempt as well. It was great stuff. It was all great stuff. I liked it a lot. It was a good way to kick everything off. Smartly done. I'm excited to see where we're going to go forward here. But of course, I mean, there wasn't really any doubt. Hiromu Takahashi is a fucking superstar. Wasn't much of a doubt here that he was going to move forward. The IWGP Tag Team Championship changed hands. Guerrillas of Destiny defeated Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr., the Dangerous Techers. Here's another wild thing about 2020, folks. This is the year that perennial mid-carder and 41-year-old Taichi suddenly became part of the conversation in New Japan circles. People getting excited for him. People enjoying his work. The guy who systematically would be like, oh, he's going to mail it in. This is the guy with... He's had a fantastic year. His pairing with Zack Sabre Jr. was a little out of the blue, but was super entertaining throughout the entire year. with their feud again, with Tanahashi and Ibushi, the Golden Aces. It was great stuff. But I mean, here's the thing, it's always the same situation, and I'm going to talk about it later on. We're going to talk about the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. I don't care about the tag team situation in New Japan because New Japan doesn't care about it either. There's no tag teams. There's no tag teams, and as much as they like to hammer home the idea of their, World Tag League and putting guys together to be in tag, there's no tag teams. There's no solid tag team division. So when it was announced that Guerrillas of Destiny were coming back and were challenging for the titles, I was like, well, I know what the outcome is now. I exactly know what the outcome is going to be. GOD are going to win. The Tongans are going to win. And guess what happened? The Tongans won. The match wasn't bad. It was fine. It was good. It was a perfectly acceptable tag team match with an outcome that was not surprising. And I'm glad that Guerrillas of Destiny will probably go down as one of the most legendary tag teams in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, with reason. But I mean, that's it. It's the tag team division, and I can't get excited about it. I'm sorry. I don't. And this is not a slight on the work of any of these guys. I like smooth Tama Tonga now that he's all fresh faced. Looks like a bloody superstar now. He does. And then I love Zack Sabre Jr. And I never thought I'd come around on Taichi. And I'm like, I mean, he's been super entertaining, and he's been taking everything up. He's been taking everything seriously. So it's been good. There's not, what can I tell you? It happened. Yeah. GOD are champs again. It's like the wheel just turns. The wheel just turns. Anakin JMT left a super chat. Thank you again, Anakin. Very kind of you this morning. He says, does New Japan care less about their tag division or their US title? I would say they care less about the tag team division, about the tag team titles. I think that's it. Because because the US title, let's not forget, was brought in a couple of years ago, but they wanted to make it the centerpiece of their US expansion, which was nipped in the bud this year because of the coronavirus. And I'll tell you one thing: if they didn't care about their US title, if they didn't care about the US title, they would have stripped Jon Moxley of it at this point. Well, let's talk about it. I mean, that's the next match that we're here to talk about, regardless, right? So the IWGP United States Championship Challenge Rights Certificate, the contract essentially, held by one Kenta, defeated Satoshi Kojima. And yes, you're right, Anakin. I did miss your other super chat. Apologies. Thank you very much. He said, you convinced me, just signed up for New Japan World. I mean, it's a good deal. It's a good deal regardless, and it's going to be fun times. If you like wrestling, if you like wrestling, you're gonna like New Japan, I think. But let's talk about it. I mean, the whole thing. Here's the thing. There's a lot of people. Hang on. Let me. This is one of these situations where I want to say too many things at once. If New Japan, like I was saying, if New Japan didn't care about the U.S. title, they would have stripped Jon Moxley at this point of the title, because then it'd be like, well, let's just do something else about it. But they care enough. They care enough about the title to want to ensure that it stays around the waist of one Jonathan Moxelworth, who is a huge wrestling star in North America currently. they want this guy to be their representative in North America. I think that's clear. I think that's a clear sign to me. And I think that's the most definite nugget of, I don't want to say proof, but it's a nugget of it's a demonstration of the seriousness of the relationship that New Japan has with AEW. I believe. I really, really do believe that. Because if they were on the outs, if they had problems, if there were problems with each other, if they weren't on the same page or whatever, AEW New Japan someone would have said, hey, look, we got to get this title off of Moxley. So I think they do have an open, I think they do have an open line of communication, and I think the relationship is stronger than what is led on or what some people believe it to be, just because they haven't stripped Jon Moxley of the title. Jon Moxley hasn't defended the IWGP United States Championship since February. I mean, at this point, right, if you're in pure kayfabe by the rules kind of thing, you strip the champion of the title if he can't defend it. But they're not doing it. So there's a reason for that. There's a reason why it's still around the waist of Moxley. That's still the reason why I thought Moxley was going to show up in Japan. I still was holding out hope. I still figured that would happen. It didn't turn out it didn't happen. But this is where we are right now. So at this point here, Kenta has defended the briefcase more times than the championship has been defended. And ultimately, I think it's helped build this championship opportunity of having Kenta versus Jon Moxley, which is a match that most people, at least in North America, want to see. And I think it's fair. We got Moxley versus Suzuki earlier this year, which was another one that was a kind of a dream match that people were like, I can't wait to see these guys beat the shit out of each other, and what a fantastic time it was. And I think this is the next logical step. Kenta versus Mox is going to be, again, two guys who are just going to beat the shit out of each other. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see out of a Jon Moxley match, and that's what you want from a Kenta match as well. It's going to be a hard fought match. And I'm excited for it. We saw pictures this morning Saturday morning before I started streaming. Kenta posted a picture of himself at an airport. He says, see you soon. He's coming back to the U.S., I believe. That would be my guess. They still have plans for New Japan U.S. And on top of that, New Japan Global this morning tweeted out that they are soon going to announce TV plans for New Japan in the US and the UK as well. So that's exciting. And I think it's all tying in. And I think we are going to get Mox versus Kenta very, very soon. I think this is going to happen, and it probably has some kind of tie-in with TV. I'm excited to see where this goes. But let's come back to the match here where we saw Kenta defeat Kojima. Originally, this spot was supposed to be taken by, the Kojima spot was supposed to be taken by Juice Robinson, who got injured, orbital bone if I'm not mistaken, on one of the Road to the Tokyo Dome shows. Shame for Juice, but ultimately, I think we got the better outcome here. And a lot of people were like, what the fuck, Kojima? And my first gut reaction, of course, for me was the same thing. So why Kojima? Why not Ishii? Why not Sho? I mean, the guys that I was saying never get the spotlight. But then when you take a couple of steps back and you realize, well, look, Kojima is a huge name in Japan. He did his time. He did his time in New Japan, then went to wrestle elsewhere, and then came back to New Japan. I think it's just about 18 months ago, something like that, a year ago. Maybe not quite 18 months. And he came back to much fanfare. This guy is very well known. He's a multiple time. He's a former IWGP heavyweight champion. He's I think it's a Noah champion. He's been all over the place. He's done lots of stuff. And Japanese fans know who he is and they like him. Yes, he's on the older side of things. Maybe not quite as exciting as a guy like Sho, but it's still exciting to see him in this type of position. And I was one of the people who thought I thought he wasn't being used well by New Japan for the stature that he has, for the history that he has in Japanese wrestling and his standing with the audience. So to see him in here against Kenta in a relatively high profile upper mid card match, I'm like, this is the best use that they've pulled out of Kojima since him coming back to New Japan. I'm excited for it. I think it's very, very cool that he's there in this match with Kenta. And I thought they had a really good, a strong, hard-fought wrestling match. I really liked it. And it wasn't the match of the night by any stretch of the imagination, because especially when you had the two final, I guess the double main event wasn't exactly that, but if you want to call it that. But this was a strong professional wrestling battle that these two guys had, and I liked it a lot. I like these kind of matches out of New Japan, where just guys wailing on each other. I like the aerial stuff. I like the high flyers. But by God, if anything, that I like me a good old strong style match. I like a good old professional wrestling match. This is what we got here. And Kojima he can still go. I don't see what the problem is. I don't know why they're not giving him more time. I'm really happy at the opportunity that Kojima got here. Again, no shock here. Kenta wasn't going to drop the briefcase to him, but predictability in wrestling. Even though an ending is predictable, it's not always about the ending. It's how you get there in many occasions. So I was excited about it. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated the Great Okan. It's wild that the Great Okan is such a point of discussion in New Japan circles these days. I think it's crazy. And I understand why, because there are some people, some very vocal voices in wrestling, who are very, very high on the Great Okan. And just to reiterate, Great Okan, former young, of course, like most guys, went through the dojo program, former young lion, goes on excursion like they all do, ends up in Rev Pro, develops this character here, starts teaming with Will Ospreay over in Rev Pro, and came back to New Japan just a couple of months ago. So a fairly new return, comes back with Will Ospreay as Will Ospreay does his heel turn to form the Empire, his new faction, along with B. Priestley and later with Jeff Cobb. And a lot of people got really, really excited at the prospect of Great Okan, and we're being told that he's the next big thing and he's fantastic. And then next thing you know, he gets booked on a very, very high profile match on Wrestle Kingdom. Again, just coming back a few months ago, while guys like Ishii and Sho have no proper showcase on either night. You get Great-O-Khan, who's not only getting a high position on the card, but he's fighting Hiroshi Tanahashi, essentially one of New Japan's biggest stars of all time. The argument goes like this. Clearly, the office they're high on Okan. They like him. And I can get it. He's a big dude. He's got a presence. I get it. I absolutely do. I like his presentation. I know some people are put off by it. And there's a lot of people who are put off by his presentation. I'm not. I dig it. And when when I talk about, Great-O-Khan, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. This is the spoiler. I'm not there with him yet. I don't see it. I don't get why he's pushed so hard straight off the bat. Sure, the office loves him, so on, but I don't get it. And people are like, oh, well, his presentation is a combination of Japanese and Mongolian folklore. You see, and I know. I have seen my fair share of Japanese ghost stories, movies and whatnot. Hell, I've seen Big Trouble in Little China. I get the references, and his I like his presentation. I like the paper, the mask thing. I like his setup. I the drunken walk and the ghost hopping. I get all of it. I understand all of it. Like the dorks come and try to explain why I should be liking him, and I'm like, my main issue with him is that I don't think he's there yet. That's my issue. Whereas there are other wrestlers on the card who have helped carry New Japan through 2020, a horrible shit year for any wrestling promotion, who helped carry the promotion with great matches, who were snubbed on the card or who were put in the fucking Rambo. That's my issue. Oh, well, you see, the office is really strong on him, and you put him in a match with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tanahashi likes to put over the young guys, and that's what he's for. I get it. I love you don't have to explain it to me. I've been watching wrestling long enough to understand how things work, and I know how Tanahashi positions himself. And I know how New Japan positions their older stars, their established stars, when they start fighting with younger stars. I know what it means. I completely understand it. And that doesn't mean that I have to like it. I understand it, doesn't mean I have to like it nonetheless. In this case in particular. And then I get the last line of defense, right? Oh, well, apparently, the Japanese fans, they really like him, and he sells a lot of merch. He sells a lot of merch. He sells so much merch. It's the last line of defense. And it's funny because I tweeted that out yesterday because I was having a discussion with someone regarding Great-O-Khan yesterday, and I tweeted out, last line of defense, the merch is the last line of defense for anyone who's trying to defend a wrestler. And then someone tweets out at me, he's like, oh, have you been listening to Joe Lanza on Voices of Wrestling? I'm like, what? No. And on one of the shows this week, Joe Lanza had that exact same argument in regards to Abaddon in AEW, where people are coming at, because he doesn't like Abaddon, and people were coming after him and said, well, people like her, she sells merch, and he was sort of going off. He went off on a rant. It was like, just because you sell merch doesn't mean you're a good wrestler. Doesn't mean that you're interesting. And I agree with that. And to me, this applies here. The The point here, the point here with Great-O-Khan is that I can recognize the guy has potential. I can recognize that he has a presence, and he's a type of wrestler that New Japan has to invest in for the future, because they have a lot of very nimble guys. But I think overall, when you look at your wrestling promotion, you need the beasts, you need the monsters, you need the Iskas who retired, right? But you need that kind of large brawler type to fill out the ranks and give a variety of matches. But it's still wild to me that you'd want to focus on these big guys when you have currently on your roster big guys, just as big as he is, who are better at pro wrestling than he is and are more established. And I'm just thinking about Jeff Cobb, and I'm thinking about Shingo, and I'm thinking about and I know he's not big. He's shorter. That's part of his thing. That's why he's called the Stone Pitbull. You get a guy like Ishii, who's a big strapping lad. But I get it, and I swear, guys, I understand what it means for Great-O-Khan to be in a match with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I know that it means that the office has big plans for him, and I know it means that Tanahashi wouldn't be wrestling him if he was a goof. I understand all of it. It doesn't mean I have to like it. When that match was announced, I tweeted it out. Why is there a New Year's Dash match on Wrestle Kingdom? Because that's how it feels. It feels like that. This is the kind of match that would have had its perfect place on New Beginnings. Perfect spot for that. On Wrestle Kingdom? And yes, I do think it's a little under Hiroshi Tanahashi. I do think it's a little under him. What would you have done? I don't know. Not that. That being said, the match happened. And it was the low point outside of the Rambo. Like, it wasn't that great. And I really think that people who are extremely high on this, look, and I'll be upfront here. I didn't get Jay White. When he returned from excursion and started the Switchblade gimmick and joined Chaos and, before he became Bullet Club. I didn't get Jay White. I really didn't. I didn't see what he brought. Now you guys, I am all in on Jay White. But I didn't feel like I had to be a wrestling hipster and be like, well, I like Jay White before he was cool to be all in Jay White. And it's the same thing here. I don't care about being one of the people who are like, oh yes, I saw all the greatness in the Great-O-Khan back in 2020. I was one of those who were a proponent for him. It doesn't matter. I can tell he has potential, and if he's doing things right and he's impressing people in the back, if he's impressing guys like Hiroshi Tanahashi, I agree. Keep an eye on the guy. In a bubble right here, right now. A guy debuts in August, gets a high-profile match 4 months later at the biggest, 5 months, August, September, October, November, December. 5 months later on the biggest show of the year, and you're going to tell me, no, Great-O-Khan is great. Fuck off. I'm excited to see what the future holds for the guy. But right now, that's my position. Anakin left us a super chat. Thank you very much, Anakin. He said, very generous super chat. You're very kind this morning, Anakin. I appreciate it. He says, to be fair. Oh boy. Starting with to be fair. This is going to be good. Isn't being a huge merch seller one reason, not the only one, but a big one of why Cena was pushed for so long? Isn't that why they redesigned the US and WWE title? Here's the thing. I think this is exactly you're nailing my point here. My point is that being a merch pusher doesn't make you a good wrestler. That's the point I was trying to make. And that's the point I think Lanza was making with Abaddon as well. Bringing up merch sales is literally the last line of defense when you're trying to convince someone of how great your favorite wrestler is or how great a wrestler is. Oh, well, he sells a lot of merch. I don't give a shit. It's the same level for me when people pull out ratings to tell me, oh, look at the ratings, this is so much better. These are numbers. They're numbers and they don't equate to quality. It's something else. It's popularity, it's hype, it's promotion, it's something else. Because you can still look at ratings numbers, ratings, merch. They're not symbols of quality. They're not. And Cena was pushed to the moon, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone in the world who will sit around and say John Cena was one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. He was a great performer. He was a great sports entertainer. But for years, people shat on Cena because he didn't have a move set. 5 moves of doom. That doesn't come out of nowhere. So it's not a question of him not being a good star, charismatic, a great mic worker. It's the package. Not the package. It's him as a wrestler. Are you a good professional wrestler? Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people would say he wasn't a good professional wrestler, and I'm part of that. I'm part of that group. Hulk Hogan, same fucking thing. And yet, just yesterday, I was watching the first Nitro. Yesterday, and I was looking at his match with Big Bubba Rogers, and I was like, Jesus, Hogan's always been shit. He's always been shit. Even in 1995, where, okay, granted, he was starting to get past his prime, but could still go better than he could now or even in the 2000s. I'm looking at him and like, he's always been bad. He's always been a terrible wrestler. He's a merch pusher. He's still a shit wrestler. Anyway, that was my point. Hello, Kristen Ashley. Welcome to the chat. And yes, it's never too early for this shit. It's never too early. Oh, Kazuchika Okada defeated Will Ospreay. God damn, this match was great. This match was fantastic. What a great, absolute, fantastic build of a match this was. Slow. Took its time. And then when it started delivering, it's one of these matches that it just sinks the hooks into you. And just starts dragging you back. Dragging you into it. You're like, oh! You got Ospreay putting Okada through the timekeeper table. And the timekeeper I thought Okada was dead. It's one of those spots where you're like, Jesus, he's dead. Ospreay gets tombstoned on the apron. There's a top rope Spanish fly. You hear the audience reacting. They're not supposed to react. They're under strict rules. You can't cheer. You can't go, woo. You can only applaud politely. But there's spots here that the audience just go, oh, because it's nuts. And our boy Okada wins with the Rainmaker. Pulls out the Rainmaker for the first time to win a match in 2020. Or at least since COVID, right? I can't quite remember January, February 2020 all that much. And that was that was it here. It was the long-term story in regards to Kazuchika Okada, because his year was basically him working the undercard, working Yujiro Takahashi, working with King of Pro Wrestling dudes, doing things where you're like, and getting us using his new finisher, the money clip, his Cobra Clutch, where you're like, what is he doing? Who is this guy? This is not Okada. To the point where the dorks were like, oh, Okada's finished. He's 32 years old. If anything, they took the time in 2020 to perfectly establish Okada, take a few steps back so that Kazuchika Okada would have some room to breathe and then come back and be like, come back as the superstar, as the Rainmaker. And that's exactly what happened. It was great storytelling. And I popped at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., whenever this match was on. I popped loud when he pulled out the Rainmaker for the win. This match ruled. Already, straight off the bat, Wrestle Kingdom giving us match of the year candidates. This was outstanding stuff. It really, really was outstanding stuff. I loved it. And I hope this is one of those where you have to check out, where you just have to look at it. You just have to sit back and enjoy. And I love it because everyone who thought that Okada was on the downfall, that he was finished, out the door, he can't hang in the main event anymore. They were worked, but you could tell it wasn't work. Why would you see 5-star Tokyo Dome Kazuchika Okada in a throwaway match against Gedo and Yujiro Takahashi? Why would Kazuchika Okada be like, I'm bringing out, I'm going all out on this one, folks? Why would he do that? Doesn't make sense. And to cap off night one, IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Double Champ Tetsuya Naito was defeated by Kota Ibushi. And I'm going to tell you guys, I was worried about this main event because it had to follow Okada Ospreay. I was worried. Because I was like, how are they even, not even top this? How are they going to get us into that level of excitement, right? Without a cool down match in between. This was fantastic. It was another fantastic match. Kota Ibushi floats in the air. We talk about Pac, defying gravity and stuff. I saw Kota Ibushi float, literally pulling a Hurricane Rana, a jumping Hurricane Rana off the apron on Naito to the floor. I still don't understand how he did it. He just floated for a second. It was nuts and beautiful shit. A beautiful, beautiful wrestling match he got here. It was great stuff. Great drama throughout. And Naito handed the belts to Ibushi at the end in a show of respect. I loved it. I loved every second of this. It was the first match, I think, that they had against each other since 2019. So it felt good. It felt fresh again. They got the history, of course. And it really was. It felt, there was a lot of back and forth. They were very, very generous to the crowd. I I thought this was fantastic. I really did. Night one had great matches. It was a really good time, really consistently good stuff. And don't get me wrong about the Great Okan Tanahashi stuff, right? Don't get me wrong about this. The match was absolutely serviceable. But I've seen star ratings out there by certain gentlemen who have who have a certain sway in regards to this, giving the exact same number of stars to Kenta Kojima and Tanahashi Okan, where I thought Tanahashi Okan was not nearly as good as Kenta and Kojima. I really don't. But that's okay. Everything is subjective. Just like my opinion is completely subjective. Night 2 started off with Toru Yano defeating Bushi, Bad Luck Fale, and Chase Owens in the opening four-way match for the provisional King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy. This wasn't good. Imagine starting your 2021, your night 2, of Wrestle Kingdom with Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale. And the thing is that I like Fale, but I think he's past his prime a little bit. I would never say that to his face. He would destroy me. But I don't think this is not the Fale from 2013. He's not the same guy. He's not the same general, you know. And Chase Owens, anyway, this match, there was nothing here, nothing of value. But Yano is once again your provisional King of Pro Wrestling trophy champion, whatever you want to call it. Next match we had was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeated Taguchi and Master Wato. This was a nothing match for nothing titles. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier in regards to the heavyweight tag team titles. There's nothing of interest in the if it's bad enough that the heavyweight titles don't generate any interest, the junior heavyweight titles are even worse. And I've said this multiple times, and I will continue saying it. New Japan doesn't care about the tag team titles. They don't care about them. And yet we have 2 sets for the 2 weight classes. I think it's time, more than ever, at this point here, to fuse both titles together and just make them open weight. It doesn't, you shouldn't have the weight class divisions anymore because you don't have the tag teams. Especially, look, the stalwarts of the junior heavyweight tag team titles, Roppongi 3K, they're not around right now. Yo is injured. Sho is starting to shine in his singles career. It's been a while now that this team should be broken up. What else do we have? Kanemaru and El Desperado. El Desperado, who is coming off one of the greatest matches of 2020 against Hiromu Takahashi. A moment that defined Desperado as a real contender, as a guy that has something really to offer. First and foremost, he's had a fantastic 2020 as a singles guy regardless. And every time he gets roped back into the tag team situation, I'm like, this is a demotion for him. There's momentum behind him, but legitimately, he's legitimately been having some fantastic matches, and everything was capped off in 2020 in his Best of Super Juniors final match against Takahashi, which was chef's kiss cordon bleu levels of greatness. It was one of my favorite matches of the year. So fucking good. And now he's back, squandered with Kanemaru, and nothing against Kanemaru, but at this point, relegating El Desperado to the junior heavyweight tag team championships is a definite demotion, and it's a step back for him. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off because he's shown that he has much more to offer. Much more to offer than a division, and I use air quotes here, that doesn't really exist or doesn't have any true support. It really is bullshit. I mean, the match was fine. Look, fun match. It was okay. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to have a bad time. But again, it kind of wraps back around to, I get that they want to put the titles on Wrestle Kingdom, but, we still didn't get any show. We still didn't get any Ishii. Or Minoru Suzuki. Here I am talking about these guys, and then Minoru Suzuki is snubbed off of Wrestle Kingdom again. I'm a broken record at this point. Anyway, good stuff. Fun match. You won't be bored by it by any stretch of the imagination. Now, we're talking about something serious here, some good shit. Openweight Championship. Shingo Takagi defeated Jeff Cobb in a fucking great match. My God! This was unquestionably Jeff Cobb's best match since the series that he had in Bola 2008, Battle for Los Angeles 2008 in PWG. Unquestionably. Absolutely unquestionably. And here, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a sucker for these types of matches. This is the type of match that I enjoy most in New Japan. This is the kind of match that I really, really like watching in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Two big guys just kicking the shit out of each other, going completely strong style with it. Physical, competitive, nuts, brutal. That's what I like. And this was a prototype for this type of match. And Jeff Cobb rose to the occasion in this match. Shingo was fantastic. But I think a lot of people had become 50-50 on Cobb over the past 2 years or so. He just lit it up. But I thought he had some great matches in the G1. And clearly he was saving this one in his pocket. He was saving this one for the big stage. And Jesus, it was a big stage match. And again, this is one of these matches that you drop everything and you go watch. Jeff Cobb hit a fucking moonsault body press. What the fuck am I trying to say? What's the word I'm looking for? It was a moonsault, a standing moonsault, and he had Shingo on his shoulders, and he planted him doing a moonsault. Fantastic stuff. I don't know why anyone could not like this match. It's wrestling. It's pro wrestling. It's nuts. It's crazy, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So you should check it out. Anakin left us another super chat. Anakin, thank you. He says, speaking of Jeff Cobb, you know how some exotic restaurants have women as the table? What? Has anyone tried that with him? That way people can have corn on the cob. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's like, what is he talking about? Women. Yeah. Good setup. You got me. You got me. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship was on the line. Hiromu Takahashi defeated champion Taiji Ishimori to become the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion once again. Great match. Great match. Oh, I skipped. Oh, well, I'll come back to Sonata versus Evil. But this was a fantastic bout. I'm bigger on Taiji Ishimori than I think a lot of people are. I think Taiji is a great power-based junior heavyweight, and maybe that's why some people don't connect with him quite as much as in regards to other guys like Hiromu, like ELP, like Robbie Eagles, like El Desperado, because he's a little more strength based. Because he looks, he's a strong, nimble guy, and his strength game is part of what makes him great. And maybe that doesn't quite connect when you think junior heavyweights who are mostly high flyers who do aerial moves and stuff like that. But I didn't expect Ishimori to hang on to the title. I think Hiromu was destined to get it back at Wrestle Kingdom, but Ishimori hasn't defended the title. It was his first defense, is what I'm trying to say. Since winning the title, I think was September. No. He won it at Summer Struggle, right? Yeah. So he hadn't defended the title since he won it in August. I guess I would have liked him to do that just because I like Ishimori, and I think he's more deserving. He's more deserving to be. I think he's more deserving to be a fighting champion than a transitional one. But this was great. Hiromu was turning up the crazy here at some points. Ishimori was sort of kicking the shit out of him, and Hiromu was like, bring it, is that all you got kind of thing. I loved it. And they got me a couple of times on some near finishes too. Great match. Absolutely fantastic match. Hard worked match. The belt is around the waist of the man. Takahashi's the man. Sonata defeated Evil as well. I thought this was good. I thought it was eons better than their G1 match. Like in another stratosphere. And it's funny because here are two guys who are highly controversial in New Japan circles and New Japan discussions. There's a lot of people who love Sonata, and others think he's dull as drywall. And Evil, I've talked about Evil and his sudden positioning as being a top guy in the company, the Bullet Club stuff and whatnot. I thought this match was really good. I thought it would have been better if the Dick Togo Bullet Club shenanigans were pulled back, but that's what's part of Evil now. That's part of his gimmick moving forward, is him being the guy who relies on outside interference to win all the time. It's no longer Jay White necessarily. Jay White still has Gato sometimes, but not as bad anymore. And you think about guys like Kenta. Kenta won clean. ELP, he tried some dick punches and shit like that, but he, there wasn't tons of outside interference, and that's the thing. It's the one thing that you grow intolerance for when you get into New Japan, and you get to see how great the matches are, how great the wrestling is, when shenanigans and outside interference and stuff like that start merging into it. It does take away a bit of your enjoyment, especially when it happens a lot. It wasn't as egregious as Naito versus Evil, when Dick Togo was just interfering every 4 minutes, it felt, and it was just super annoying. It wasn't that bad, but this was a good it was a good match between the two. It was all right. But I liked it. I liked it more than anything that Evil did this year, and especially better than the match that Sonata and Evil had at the G1. And the main event, we're newly crowned IWGP Heavyweight Champion and Intercontinental Champion Kota Ibushi defeated our boy Jay White. Now, there's talking points here, of course. I don't know if you heard. This was a fantastic main event, and there's no two ways about it. And it's all, when you have a great heel doing great heel things, it is so much easier to get behind a babyface. It really, really is. And Kota Ibushi he's a penultimate babyface. He looks the part. He loves the fans. He's got that naivete about him that's so endearing. And then on the other side, you have Jay White, who is just despicable. The Jay White, 2020 Jay White is the year that he upped his game. He looks like $1 million. His heel work has never been this good. His in-ring has been brought up a couple of notches, as we saw in the G1. But this was fantastic. Ibushi got dropped on his head more often than not. And I mean, it was all about Jay White trying to tear Ibushi apart, but he couldn't do it. He just could not manage to do it. And I love it because at some point Jay White thinks he's got him, and the desperation is so palpable. It's just overwhelming him. It's so good. Great, fantastic athletics. It's so good. I loved it. I thought it was a great main event. Now, of course, what comes out of all of this is Jay White, after, has his post-match promo in the press conference area, and he essentially says, look, I'm contractually obliged to head on to go to New Year's Dash tomorrow, but after that, I'm done with New Japan Professional Wrestling. That's what he said. And what happens at New Year's Dash? Well, it's an 8-man match, Bullet Club versus Chaos, and he gets pinned clean as a sheet following a brainbuster by Tomohiro Ishii, pins him clean in the ring. So right now, the speculation, the thing that's going around is Jay White leaving? Is he going to end up in the WWF? Now you have all the things popping up. You have all the reports appearing right and left. It's like, oh, well, WWE is apparently bidding hard for Jay White. And then sources are telling us that he's entertaining offers from WWE. And I've been saying WWF, but I'm in WWE. I mean, to me, and I hear all the arguments as, oh, well, he's so young, and he can go stretch his legs elsewhere and he has time to come back to New Japan. Why would Jay White at this point in his career, even if he is still under 30 years old, why would he want to go anywhere else than New Japan Pro Wrestling? Well, we said he was going to go. Yeah, but he could be working us. And you know what? It is the most Jay White thing to do than to lose a match, go backstage, and be a whiny baby. Be all babykins. Oh, I lost. Boo-hoo-hoo. You guys don't want me anymore. Well, then I'm going somewhere else. And the reason why it felt real is because Jay White is a great promo. And it's because he's doing it in character. He's playing off his strengths. He says, you're getting Jamie, which is his real name, not Jay. You're getting Jamie here. I'm leaving New Japan. I'm done with this place. And that's why people are buying into it, because it feels real. And you know why it feels real? Because New Japan lets its wrestlers do the wrestler things. And they're not overly scripted. So that's why we're not used. Sometimes people get easily worked into these situations because you're like, So it's weird to me that people are like, yeah, Jay White is going, and people are in a panic. And then again, I understand why people are in a panic over this. Why wouldn't you be afraid that Jay White is leaving New Japan to end up in fucking WWE? Because I know WWE will not know what to do with the guy. Jay White is not only the best heel in the world right now, he is the best heel in professional wrestling. He is the penultimate old school territory days North American heel that North American companies are unable to build these days. I don't even think AEW is doing all that great a job with MJF these days. I think MJF is too corny. When MJF gets savage, that's when he's at his best. But I think he's too corny. Let MJF be a son of a bitch, and we'll start adding him into the conversation as being one of the top heels in the biz. He still is a great heel, don't get me wrong. But I think he can be better because we've seen him be better. We've seen him be a better outright heel. Anyway, back to Jay White. If he were to go to WWF, and I sincerely believe this, they wouldn't know what to do with him. They really would not know what to do with him. Because they'd probably turn him into a goofy heel. A second version of Baron Corbin where it's like, oh, no. Bad things would happen to him and he'd go like this. And that's not Jay White. You know, there's a certain wrestler who likes to call himself the cerebral assassin, but that's exactly, Jay White doesn't have to call himself that because that's exactly what type of wrestler and type of heel he is. He's calculating. He measures his opportunities. You never know what he's thinking. That's what a Jay White match is all about. That's what he does right now. But it's not contrived enough for WWE. He's going to lose that edge. AEW, why would he go to AEW? Why would he go anywhere else than New Japan? Where he has creative freedom and stability to do what he wants. He's a top guy. Jesus Christ, Gato is the booker and Gato is his valet. They work as a team together. He's part of the Jay White act. You're not going to tell me that he doesn't understand how this shit works. I don't buy it. And it's a work. And it's a fantastic work by one of the best heels in the business who's riling up the internet because he knows how to work the fans. And people who are worried, I think, I'm not going to get on a high horse and say, if you're worried about Jay White, you're being worked, you marks. I'm not going to get on that high horse. That, to me, is proof of how passionate a fan base he has, or New Japan has, whichever way you want to look at it. It's proof that people are attached to this guy in this incarnation, this character, and they want to hang on to that. And I think that's a symbol, that's a testament of the good work that Jay White puts in. But I want to be on the record, whatever Jay White decides, and I'm sitting here saying I don't think he's leaving. What if, suddenly he ends up in Impact? Let's say he ends up anywhere else. I'll be surprised. I'll be disappointed, but I'll be happy for Jay White because clearly it will have been a decision that will be good for him. It'll be something that he'll probably thought about, put a lot of effort into, and to come up with this, to say, well, at this stage in my career, I'm going to Impact Wrestling. Because, and I mean, look, he's 28. He's got obviously years and years and years to go still. And he's not the guy who works the hardest as far as work rate goes, right? Like, he's a very good heel. He works the heel style to a T. But he's not the guy who's putting the most grueling he's not putting his body through grueling, intense matches where he's landing on his neck and he's taking these insane bumps every 5 minutes. There's a lot of guys who will want to transition to North America because they want to give their body a break. Working working Japanese style, it's hard on the body. So at some point I can understand why someone goes, like a Kushida, like a Shinsuke Nakamura, goes like, you know what? I want to add a couple of years on my career. I can't keep working this style. I'm going to go to North America. It's a little smoother. It's a little softer. I can add a couple of more years on my career. Hell, don't be surprised that ladies like Asuka and Io Shirai and Kairi Sane all decided to leave Joshi style to come to North America so that they could continue wrestling without destroying their bodies working Stardom. And I know Asuka is not a Stardom, but Kairi Sane was already banged up pretty bad out of Stardom. It's one of the reasons why she came to North America, so that she could add a few years on her career. Because she can't go back and work a full Joshi Stardom schedule. Her body can't take it. It just can't. The same thing with Io. So I can understand why eventually someone working in Japan would be like, you know what? I'm going to dial it back a bit. And try to come and move in and work in North America. Work WWE style. I can completely understand it. But I don't think Jay White is there yet. I really don't. So no, I don't think he's going anywhere. Despite everything. I think it's a very good angle. I think it's great. But I don't think he's going anywhere. Anyway, Wrestle Kingdom. Those are my final thoughts on the whole thing. I thought it was a fantastic show. I thought it was very consistent. Despite and we came out with some extraordinary matches. Again, despite the fact that there wasn't really any investment, some real hype, some real drama to it. I thought we ended up with something, with some fantastic matches, some really, really good stuff. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to thank you all for hanging out with me this morning so that I could talk about New Japan. I was itching to talk about Wrestle Kingdom, and now I have it out of my system. I feel good. This is nice. Whew. I want to thank you all for joining me this morning. Remember to join me for the slates, the pre-shows that I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday before the big wrestling events. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Come and join us for a little half-hour warm-up. And of course, the Mr. Warren Hayes show every Thursday, 9 p.m. And join the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. I don't know why you haven't joined the Discord yet. No, you probably already have. But you should join it anyway. It's a good time. Hey, we played some Jackbox games last night. It was fun times. And then you talk about wrestling and all sorts of shit. Come and join us on the Discord. It's a good time. I want to thank you all for, again, for joining me this evening. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you next time.